This is the 217 Recovery Podcast with Corey Winfield.
All right.
And welcome. It is the 13th of August, 2020. My name is Corey Winfield, and this is the 217 Recovery Podcast. And we're on the road today, which is kind of fun. Always fun to head down state to my hometown of Coloma and stay with my family. And joining me on the podcast tonight is my mother, Sandy. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
I'm glad to know that.
Yeah, before we get into some things, I just want to take a minute to welcome a friend of mine, Aaron, who is in early recovery, to the team. He's going to be blogging, and he I don't know, I've known him for a couple months, and Aaron seems to me like the kind of guy who would kind of take an opportunity like writing a blog and run with it and keep himself sober by it. You know, it helped Anna when Anna first started. She got out of treatment, and I was in treatment with Anna. I got out before she did, and she, you know, wanted to help and wanted to do things, and she couldn't always make the podcast. So I was like, how about this? How about you write a blog? And she loved the idea. And then I told her, all right, Anna, how about you do that every day? And it probably drove her nuts, but I think it helped her kind of form a following, and, you know, a lot of people look up to Anna. So the same thing kind of with Aaron, I think is going to really help him out as the podcast helps me out. You know, the podcast has helped keep me sober. You know, I'll have 2 years in December, which is just amazing. It blows my mind. It's just the second year, after you get the first year, for me, it's just flown by. So hopefully this will give Aaron a little sense of purpose, and hopefully he can help people out. You know, not everybody listens to a podcast. Not everybody reads a blog, but people will gravitate towards something that is familiar to them. And some of the stuff I talk about, people can relate to, and that's why they listen. And lately, though, I've been finding out more and more that people who don't even have a problem with substance use are listening because they know someone who is or has. And the way we talk about our recovery and our sobriety and the struggles that we have every day is real. You know, yeah, I have 2 years coming up in December, but I still think about drinking from time to time. It's just a lot different when I think about it now, and the fact that I'm more stable and I have way too much to lose now. You know, whereas before I felt like I didn't have anything to live for. But we talk about our feelings, and we talk about, you know, how raw it is, and, you know, we get a lot of feedback about that. And Mom, this is something that you could probably help out with, because was it a month or so ago, someone reached out to me and they're like, hey, can you help this guy? His kid, you know, is having problems. And like, sure, I can try to help the kid out. And then the dad would come back with, well, what do? I don't know what to do. And I just had to be upfront with him. And just, I don't know what to do, man. Like, I'm on the other end. I'm on the same end as your son. Like, I don't know where that on the parent end comes from. You know, like, here's my mom's phone number. Give her a call, text her, whatever. And you were like, hey, thanks, son. You know, but I know you didn't mind. But
I mean, if he's listening, you know, I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to him lately, but
yeah, just like when someone just reached out again last week, and she's trying to help her brother, and she's like, I don't know what to do, and, you know, he lies and blah blah blah. And I kind of told her, I was like, well, look, right now isn't the time to like pick a fight with him. You know, like, the main goal right now is to get him somewhere safe and to get him help.
Exactly. Now, see, that was good advice, even though you're on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are some things you know to tell them.
Yeah, but I mean, what that dad was asking, I'm like, I really don't know, man. Like, I really didn't.
I didn't either, just because I know you say really, truly, there's not a difference, but for me, it felt like there was between cocaine and drug compared to alcohol. you both do different things to get it. All you had to do is go to a grocery store and buy it. Nobody questioned you. You know what I'm saying? So in a way, it made it easier for you to do it. However, in his son's case, he probably was doing all kinds of things that you weren't. You know, he couldn't just go buy it somewhere, and he probably didn't have a job, or so that might have led him to steal, or it leads a lot of them to do a lot of different shady things. So now their character, their personality, everything else is changing all within that. But for you, that all wasn't changing, even though, you were feeling how you felt. You could still just go. You didn't have to make yourself be doing something immoral, questionable, necessarily to get the alcohol.
Yeah, but it would have been just as easy. And, there were times where I had a food stamp card.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I would go buy pop just to take
unethical.
back and that was just to stop the shakes. That wasn't to have a good time partying.
But there's still, it might have been a little bit unethical, but it wasn't illegal.
Oh, yeah. But, I personally have never stole alcohol from a store, but I know people who have, just to stop their shakes. It does happen, and it's just 'cause I never did that. But, I've done other things that were questionable, or, trying to take movies or whatever to sell. I just think, I gotta have the alcohol.
Right. But I'm just saying, I just didn't know. And his son was a lot younger than you, so it kind of is in a place where, is he ready yet? I don't know. Do you have to turn 100 like you are in order to finally reach that point?
Yeah, and, for that father...
And I did tell him a place to go, which you said, oh, don't tell him to go there. But at least it's a place to go. Seek out something, good or bad. Something good is going to come with it. Even the worst places you were helped you in some way that you probably are figuring out more and more. Like you learned, okay, I don't want to be in this again, or I don't know, you learned different lessons from each place, good or bad, but you learned something. They probably would have been ideal if you could have just gotten in the perfect place at the perfect time, just a one and done thing. That doesn't mean people can't do it in a one and done.
Right, yeah. It's just, you can go to 20 of them, you can go to one. It's what you learn, it's what you are willing to put in.
But since this young man, I think, was 27, and...
He was 21.
Was he 21?
Yeah.
But see, he's so fresh off of being I don't want to say, I'm not putting teenagers down, but they can be like smart aleck teenagers. They know more about the world, and they know more than you do, and they're not going to die. They're only 21, and they feel invincible, and you got all that coming into play. And how long has he really been doing that, And
I think that's why I referred the dad to you, because I saw this kid as not even close to being ready. Like, this parent had
I guess I kind of felt that way.
Sit down, buckle in, and just get ready for the ride, because it's going to be some years. It was my opinion on that.
I was hoping it wasn't going to be, but that's kind of how I felt, too. That's why, get him somewhere, and does he really think he really has a problem? Mm-hmm. Or does he, at 21, think, I can handle this, just so my mom and dad are freaking out about it?
Yeah, well, no, he wasn't even close to be ready. Like, he was, when I had talked to him, it was everybody else's fault.
Right.
It wasn't his fault for putting himself in bad situations. It was the other kid's fault for being a snitch, and it wasn't his fault for selling the drugs to a cop. It was the cop's fault for not saying he was a cop. It was all just like excuses.
Right, it was more about he got in trouble and he got caught.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
It was everybody else's fault but his.
Yeah, and I felt bad for the dad, but, all he could do is just keep telling the kid where he might end up and that kind of thing. But doesn't live at home. There's not a lot of control that his dad can do. But it depends on how close. I do have to say, in our case, I knew you really well. I was close to you. I was the mom and the dad, kind of, in a way. And so, I mean, we were close at one point, kind of, I think. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe? But, so that made it easier for me to not get afraid to get in your face, I guess. In some ways it did, because you live far away and then you wouldn't call me, hardly talk. I know we went a whole year one time not even talking at all after Kylie's wedding. But what could I do? I tried to get a hold of you, and but after things that happened on that whole thing, it's just like threw my arms up in the air. But then when we did see each other a year later, my whole trip down there was how am I going to choose the right words? Because I felt like I was coming down to Arkansas to save your life. I'm like, this is my only shot with him to try to make him realize what a problem he has. And this is after you had, remember the time Mike and I came there and you were sober for 11 days at that point?
Mike was my stepfather.
Yeah, my husband. And you made it to 14, but then you fell off. Well, then, Kylie's wedding and all that came after. However, I think that it was a little harder to reach you so far away. But then when you always had good enough girlfriends to the point where, I shouldn't say it that way, but your girlfriends were always good at getting in touch with me and saying, probably because they knew that we were close and they could sense that. But of course you pushed me out of the way because you wanted to do what you were doing and you knew that I was onto it. But it wasn't until, I'd start hearing, getting phone calls, crazy crap that was going on. And it's like, okay, no. So I'd come down there.
Yeah. And
got in your face, and I'd say, let me talk to him. No, he won't talk to you. And then I always knew that you were drinking or drunk. And then you try to tell people, I have not been drinking. Well, let me talk to him. Oh, he won't talk to you.
Yeah, it was the emotions, though, that I didn't want to feel, like
ashamed.
No, well, just
embarrassed.
A little bit. Well, that comes after the drinking, when the drinking starts, and then when I start drinking, then that goes away real quick. But no, just the abandonment and feeling alone in life, and the things that I was trying not to feel. And I'm a man; I'm supposed to not feel that way. And that's why I started drinking. And then once it grabs a hold of you, it's hard to let go. And
I know down there too, you would always, there was a point when we were talking, you would always express to me how miserable you were down there. You were so far away from family. You really missed your family a lot. And then later on, when you came back up here, I shouldn't have came up here, and all this, because everything had changed here. Life was still going on here. But you kind of stuck with it in your mind that it was where it was when you left it, and things had changed. However, you...
that too is a part of the addiction.
Denied to me that. I said, no, you were always telling me how miserable you were, how the job was stressful, and I had no idea how stressful, and you missed everybody, and you felt alone down there. Yeah, you have the ability to make friends easy and quickly, and enemies just as quickly. However, you just felt alone down there because you didn't really know anybody.
If I had to give myself advice to that Corey from 5 years ago or whatever, I would say it feels uncomfortable, doesn't it? Yeah. That feeling right now that you feel is uncomfortable. The reason why you want, in your mind, you're playing it back to be, Arkansas was such a great time. You hated it there.
Yeah.
The reason